If there's nothing new or hasn't been for a couple of days, then yeah, go do something else. But I figured that would be a service to everybody. So the last topic of the night, COVID. You know it. I don't have to tell you anything. Use it. When you have to wear a mask, do err on the side of caution. I just heard today that they're talking now about a booster shot for the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, which is what I got back on March 13th. Yeah, I'll get it. I have no qualms whatsoever. I'm not one of those wackos that think that this is a violation of my personal rights. Look, I've been taking flu shots. I had measles shots when I was a kid. I had the polio vaccine. Thank God that we didn't have this kind of attitude around in the 1950s when polio was just wreaking havoc with the youngsters of America. How many of you remember the March of Dimes? Okay, not many, I'm sure. If you're my age, you remember it, because the March of Dimes was how people contributed from a very small area of means to the larger effort to eradicate polio. You got a sleeve, and there had little slots in them. And when you could, you put a dime into them. And when you got through with it and you filled it up, you either brought it to the police station or the fire department or someplace like that, and they would send it on to the national fundraising organization. And that was it. It was called the March of Dimes to end polio. Remember, a dime was a little bit more valuable in 1954, 56, 58 than it is now. But it was a grassroots means of attacking something, and people did it wonderfully here in this country. And nowadays we have rednecks complaining about how Bill Gates is putting microchips in your brain from vaccines. People say that science is against God's work. Now, if God was against science, he wouldn't have created it, and he wouldn't have created people who can understand it. It's so easy to think that. And where do these people, where the hell did they go to school? Kmart University? They didn't even get that far. Oh, man. Thank you for joining me tonight. We'll be back with another one of these things pretty soon if YouTube doesn't throw me off it. Please take care of yourself. Take care of your family. I love you all. Good night, everybody. We're back. I know, where have we been, right? Hi, everybody, and welcome to episode 54 of The Owner's Box After Dark. I am Mark Farinella. I'm your host for this podcast, which has not been around for 2.5 years. And I'm going to explain why, but first and foremost, I want to welcome you all back to the beautiful confines of Fulton Pond Studios in Mansfield, Massachusetts, my home, my studio, my life. It's a stormy night here in March. It is Saturday, March 23rd, 2024. And the last time we put an episode of this up was, as you saw in the opening, in September of 2021. So yes, 2.5 years, almost to the day, actually. And why was this the case? Well, I apologize, but I had a major computer meltdown here in September of 2021. And I lost all of the video editing software on my computer. I lost a computer in general. The one that I was actually recording these things on just had a complete meltdown. And in fact, it's sitting behind me right now. You may see a picture of Nora O'Donnell on it. That's my good luck charm. It has been repaired. It has more memory, but I went ahead and bought a brand new computer, and that's what you're looking at right now. That's what's recording this episode. So It took me 2.5 years, however, to rebuild everything because I have just been so busy. I am a retired sports writer and sports editor. I worked for 42 years for the Sun Chronicle in Attleboro, Massachusetts, which, if you saw any of the 53 previous episodes, you knew that. Okay. And I was going to retire in 2018, but they laid me off ahead of that. So as a result, I have become a broadcaster. I've become a high school football, basketball, you name it. I broadcast, I announce sports for three different cable systems here in southeastern Massachusetts, and I love it. But I've been so busy at it and busy at other things and all that kind of stuff that I just have not been able to get to the reconfiguration of the templates that are needed to make this video one happen. Amazingly, at the conclusion of this year's basketball season, which was very hectic, I finally had time to just sit down at my computer and say, well, let's start. And then clicking on a few buttons, and that's the desktop in the other room, or as I like to call it, Studio B, I found that there were some of the elements left. When I reloaded the software, some of the old folders were in there, and they were able to merge with the new software, and as a result, some of my old templates had survived. I can't use any of my previous episodes as templates, but I have so many elements available to me that it's easy for me to reconfigure all this. So everything that you've seen so far has been probably familiar to you if you remember the podcast from 2.5 years ago. Well, hopefully onward and upward, we'll continue doing this. A couple of quick notes. The beverage of the evening, as always, Diet Dr. Pepper. I can't live without it. I think my blood is probably about 90% of Diet Dr. Pepper. And of course, the mood candle. It's still here. It's Italian lemon, or Sicilian lemon, by Yankee Candle. And as we do have a Sicilian lemon sitting in front of you right off the bat, it's only apropos. And it smells great. And I haven't used it much because I haven't really been in this room for quite a while. In fact, whenever I finally got a new vacuum cleaner and went through it, boy, you should see the dust that this thing picked up. Anyway, I figure I got to explain to you what happened in the world over the last 2.5 years since all of this disappeared. So I'm going to try in about maybe 15 to 20 minutes, and let's see what we can do. First of all, as you all know, at about that time in our lives when this podcast disappeared, I was always preaching at the end of each one about COVID safety. COVID-19, of course, had really taken its toll on the country, no question about it. And we were just starting to get an idea that maybe we're going to be coming out of it, but we still had a long way to go, and we just didn't know it at the time. But as you know, I mean, I would always talk at the end of it about how I wanted you to, make sure you used your hand sanitizer. Use it. And of course, this is the same bottle. Now, there's less in it than there was originally, but I just have not had a chance to refill it. I haven't had a need to because, as I said, I just haven't been in this room all that much. I have quite a few rooms in this house, and when I wasn't doing podcasting, I really didn't need to be in here. So, yeah, I'll refill it. I'll get fresher stuff in there, but yeah, I still use it though every now and then. I just remind you that every now and then we have a kind of a relapse of COVID, of some sort of variant of it. Just, be smart about that. But I will also tell you that I never got it. Now, I've had every vaccination. I started with the Johnson & Johnson originally, but then I've got every Moderna booster since then. And I've only had one time where I had even any remote soreness in my arm from it. Otherwise, I've never had a reaction to it, but I never got COVID. So either that proves that I'm from the planet Krypton originally, or it just proves that some people just don't get it. And I'm thankful I'm one of them. I do mourn those we lost. I lost people that I knew. We all did, I'm sure. And I think the response of the government at the time was inadequate, but that doesn't bring people back. So I just remember them fondly, and I'm every day thankful that I wasn't one of them, to be honest. But I do hope we don't go through anything like this again, and I certainly hope that if we do, the response is a lot different. Okay. Now, another health-related issue I had that I used to talk about was that I had problems with my left knee. I had surgery just before the computer went. And so as a result, uh, I didn't have a knee replacement. I just had a small incision to take out the meniscus, which was a mess. I'm still having trouble with it. And now I'm having trouble with the other one. So I've been thinking about getting a knee replacement. I know a lot of people that have, people quite a bit younger than me. They all say, Mark, do it, don't delay. Well, I keep delaying because I'm on my own here. And, if I had one, I could probably move around, but I need both. And if I had them both done at the same time, I would be trapped in my bed and I wouldn't be able to move, which is not a good thing, especially when nature calls. So I don't know. I'm still thinking about it. It's definitely a conundrum. But in the meantime, I can move. I can do my job. I can hobble about. I have two nice cars, so I don't walk anywhere. But I wish I could. And so we'll think about it. We'll see what's happening. Otherwise, I'm not bad off. I got new glasses. You may be able to tell. They're nice. They're Warby Parkers. I'm using the same prescription I got 4 years ago. And can you believe that? Because my eyes really haven't changed all that much over these many years that I have had my last prescription done. I've gone to yearly appointments. Don't get me wrong. In fact, I got another one coming up at the beginning of April. But so far, so good. So I just figured I'd want to look a little better, a little darker than what I usually get, but I like them. That's kind of cool. The other thing that's kind of nice is that my diabetes is under control. I am diabetic, and I have had high sugar numbers in the past. They got to practically normal recently, and then I had a problem. And the problem is, well, a problem that millions of diabetics are having in this country is that our medication is just not available to us right now. Once a week, I inject myself with Trulicity that goes along with my nightly insulin injections. Now, that's a great drug, and it also has some other effects. Um, it helps you with weight loss a little bit. It kind of dampens your appetite a little bit. So as a result, what's happened in the world with Trulicity and several other well-known drugs, Ozempic, one of them, that people are fatties who have a lot of money and have doctors that are willing to write phony scripts for them are getting prescriptions to this stuff, and they're taking it solely for weight loss and not for the real reason why it's out there. It's just to help people like me. So, it pisses me off. Sometimes people really suck. And I would like to get back on that as soon as I can because, yeah, my numbers have gone up a little bit. I've been off it for 3 months now, and that's not a good thing. It works wonderfully. I do take all the other things. I have changed my diet, lost a little bit of weight, and, I'm trying my best to stay alive. Bottom line, right? So I just wish I'd get a little help from the pharmaceutical industry and crank this stuff out, and maybe a little bit more regulatory help in keeping it away from the people that don't need it. I did get a new computer, as I told you. The one you're seeing this being recorded on is an Alienware from Dell. I got a gaming computer because they have more guts, faster processor, more memory, things like that. I needed it to make this stuff work, and so as a result, it works pretty well. I finally made it back onto the World Wide Web with my audio podcast last March 26th. Now, that had been off for a while too, because again, this wiped out not just my video software, but my audio software as well. So as a result, I was like 40 plus episodes into my original Gangsta, the owner's box, the audio only version, which is on every wonderful streaming platform out there. You can find it, you can get it, and there's some great episodes, and we've done quite a few lately. In fact, when I finally got back on March 26th, and we're almost at an anniversary for that, I've gotten 10 new episodes up, and that's good. But I was just dying to get the video version up again, and so finally we've done it. Now, I'm a little bit of a pause right now in the audio version. It's been a couple of months since my last one, but that's because I've just been so busy with the job that I do. And, that was something I'll talk about in a second. And I also got another new car. Now, I'd gotten one just before everything blew up. It's a Mercedes I forgot what it's called. It's the SUV version. It's a 300 series SUV, and it's great. But I traded in the beautiful little Beetle that I've had for almost 9 years, and in fact, it's the longest I've ever owned a car. My little Blue Boo, that one I turned in for an incredible trade-in value, amazing a trade-in value, and I got a C300 Mercedes-Benz convertible. So I'm very happy with that. Not new, not a new to me, but not new to the world, and it's got a few miles on it, but not terrible. And I just love it. And now I'm a two Benz family. Okay, I can't take it with me, right? On that note, you probably are wondering, I did turn 70 on January 7th of this year. Yes, 70 years old. Hard to believe. Very hard to believe. But I think that gives me the right, as an American senior citizen, to be as cranky as I want to be at any time of day. But let me tell you something. I kind of am happy to be alive, so I'm not that cranky. I try not to be anyway, okay? Enough about me, or at least for the time being. What else has happened in the last 2.5 years? Well, let's see. Oh, yes, Donald Trump is running for president again. He still says he didn't lose the last election. And, to be honest, he's losing his marbles at an astonishing rate. But there's still an incredibly stupid segment of the public out there that believes everything he says and would probably vote for him again, even if he is sent to jail on any of these 90-plus felony charges that are against him that are being adjudicated in courts right now. What can I do? We're trying our best to get him out of the way, but outside of anything illegal, there's nothing he can do. Sadly, enough of the MAGA nuts didn't ingest bleach during COVID-19, although that's a pretty nasty thing of me to say. My hope, though, is that sometime between now and November, Trump finally gulps down that one Big Mac too many, and, then we don't have to worry about him anymore. We can dream, can't we? Sure, he'd feel the same way about me if he even gave a remote rat's ass. Now, one problem is that Trump's legacy from his presidency continues to haunt us in his absence, especially women. And, I do have a warm spot in my heart, a very warm spot, soft spot, whatever they call it, for women, and especially women athletes. Most of the women I've known in my lifetime have all been very strong, positive role models to younger women, goal-oriented, determined to be equals. I love women athletes. I've devoted my life. I've covered pro football for 40-something years, but my joy was covering the development and expansion of women's basketball since Title IX. And, I've made great friends and gained a lot of respect for the people who are involved in it. And you'll know that as we go farther into this episode, if you don't know it already. But, he packed the Supreme Court, and those right-wing conservatives are just determined to return this country to a time when women were expected to be barefoot, pregnant, and in the kitchen all the time, and also happy about it. Now, there's a guy running for governor in North Carolina. He claims the country was better off when women didn't have the vote. I bet you there'll be women in North Carolina that'll actually vote for him for some unknown reason. But I hope he doesn't get elected. I mean, that's ridiculous. Now, the other sad part about all that is that packed court voted to vacate the Roe versus Wade decision. That happened in June 2022. And there's been a torrent of anti-abortion legislation throughout the country as a result. And there have been plenty of other attempts to take away just about any sort of self-governance or self-control over their own bodies by women, they've also been pretty tough on non-Christians and the LGBTQ community. And God forbid you should have gone through a transition from either sex to the other, because now you're the enemy, even worse than Muslims, as the Republican talking points seem to be nowadays. That's terrible. It's terrible. These are hard times. Now, the big news in the sports world was that the Patriots finally fired Bill Belichick. Okay, they're not calling it that. They're saying it was a mutual, quote unquote, decision. It was a firing. Come on, the guy was 4-13 last year, and it finally became clear over these years since Tom Brady left that he did not get the talent necessary through the draft or through free agency or through anything to keep the winning tradition alive. And also, players tuned him out. I mean, you can only be the head of the National Socialist Party for so long. That's terrible. No. Okay, I used to call him Richard Nixon. I think that's a better analogy. But you can only be that way for so long before players tune you out. Sometimes success just isn't enough. Football is still a game. It's fun, or supposed to be. Football wasn't very fun during the years of the Patriots' quote-unquote dynasty, but it was successful. And that's, the bottom line, really, when you get down to it, is still success. And speaking of dynasties, recently there was this TV documentary called The Dynasty. And a lot of the fanboys out there are calling it an unfair hit piece by the Kraft family against Belichick. And it was ordered by Robert and Jonathan to make them look good. Yeah, I finally broke down and watched it. I mean, I spend way too much on cable TV and also on streaming services now, but I finally broke down, paid some money for Apple TV Plus, and I watched it. I liked Masters of the Air a lot better, but I watched it, and I came away with the feeling that all parties concerned made mistakes towards the end. And in the final accounting, when you've been together for 20 years or more, and if you expect that there are going to be no clashes of these monumental egos, come on, that's just not going to happen. Of course, the geniuses of social media, they just want to take it to the media the way Belichick used to, because Belichick always said the media was a subversive element when it came down to his team building process. Okay? Well, that was our job. Our job was to report the good, the bad, and the ugly. And the Patriots always wanted only the good. And in fact, a lot of what you're seeing in the dynasty from the ownership perspective is only the good. A lot of things weren't brought up in that. And I think that's there's some things that should have been, and they weren't. But you know what? We in the media all told you that this was eventually going to happen. Not because we're smarter than everybody else. A few of us are, not all of us. But it's just common sense that nothing lasts forever. As for the rest of Boston sports, well, the Red Sox have been dead last in the American League East for the last 2 years in a row, and they're probably not going to do much better this year. The Celtics and Bruins fell short in the playoffs the last couple of years, but they might have a chance to break through that this year. We'll see. And the Revolution? Who cares? Now, I'm long since removed from print journalism, although my former newspaper did let me write a column when Belichick was let go. And I'm kind of glad they did, and it gave me a chance to at least say a little bit of a goodbye to my readers after many years after the fact. But you know what? I'm fully engrossed in my second career as a play-by-play sports announcer. I love it. I've never had so much fun in my life. I work, as I said, for North Attleboro Community Television, or North TV, for Mansfield Cable Access, and for Foxboro Cable Access. In fact, I was doing almost all of North TV sports last year. A fellow by the name of Jared Ware, who was a full-time employee of North TV for many years, coming up to last year, he got a job at the National Federation of High Schools Network. Now, if you don't know what that is, it's kind of a clearinghouse for national high school sports. You get anything from a huddle camera to broadcaster somewhere. Their games with an agreement with the NFHS network can get picked up and distributed for a fee to just about anybody who wants it. And they also get the rights for the Massachusetts high school basketball and hockey playoffs. And I've actually worked for NFH Network a couple of times and done their telecasts and gotten nice paychecks from them. But unfortunately, I think sometimes that takes away the product from the local folks who are used to seeing it on their televisions at home for their local teams. But that's a debate for a different day. But Jared was working there. He was the regional coordinator for New England, and I guess he just didn't like it. I can't say I blame him. It would have been a lot of work. So he came back to North TV. So I had done almost all of the sports from the fall season of 2022, the winter season of 2023, and the just beginning the spring season of 2023 when Jared returned, and that brought me back to just doing King Philip sports again, with an occasional uh, special guest appearance on some other telecasts. But that's good. I needed the break. Look, I'm an old guy. I love working, and I love the fact that there are no deadlines. I don't have to work for hours after the game's over. But I needed a break, and my voice especially needed a break. So I'm happy to be doing just the KP sports this year and the other games I do. Now, winter is a very busy time for me because I'm doing all of them all together at once, and my schedule is incredible. But it's very rewarding, and I'm happy to do it. Now, in fact, I've been lucky. I have gotten to cover 3 straight Division II championship football games, the Super Bowls at Gillette Stadium. Now, 2 of them were lost by KP to Catholic Memorial. This year, Catholic Memorial actually got beat by somebody beforehand. King Philip played Marshfield. They absolutely devastated Marshfield and finished 13-0, unbeaten season, perfect year, terrific. I had a great time calling those games, and I absolutely loved it. One problem. I lost my color analyst. My good friend Glenn Farley left us. No, he's not dead. he just retired totally. I mean, many years at the Brockton Enterprise, worked together with him so much on the Patriots beat for over 2 decades, and then he worked with me for 4 years on the telecasts for KP, not just football, but for some other sports as well. But he's kind of gotten tired of it, especially the long drive from Middleborough to Wrentham, which is where we do most of our games. And so he decided he was going to have more fun watching his grandson, play youth hockey than by calling hockey games for North TV or other games as well. And you know what? Salute, as they say. Glenn, I know you're happy you're doing this. Thank you for the 4 years you gave me. I had a great time working with you. I enjoyed it so much. And sometimes I miss you, but I know you're happier, and continued good health and good viewing of those hockey games. The rinks are super cold. Okay. Important this year. Great fun. Actually been great fun the last 2 years in basketball. I got to cover 3 state championship games, announced them in the last 2 years. Last year, I announced the Mansfield boys missing 2 starters, and they got all the way to the state championship game where they got beat by the best team that money can buy, Malden Catholic High School, but they only got beat by 18 points by them. Malden Catholic beat the team the previous year by 52, and they also won again this year. They beat Sharon, and it was kind of big. I think Mansfield has actually done the best job of those 3 since then, but what can you do? But they lost that one, but I got to cover 2 wins as well. I got to announce 2 wins both years by the Foxboro girls basketball team. Last year, they beat Draycott in Division II. This year, they brought back their entire starting lineup and about 3 or 4 other kids that played last year, and they beat Norwell in Division III. Now, why did they drop to Division III? The MIAA had a huge realignment of everything this year, and it's all enrollment based unless you decide to opt up or whatever, and there's a lot of rules involved with that. And so they decided they'd stay put. They were among the highest enrollment in Division III, but they were still well off the Division II pace. So they had to do, as Bill Belichick used to say, we can only play with the schedule they give us. And so Foxboro went into the playoffs. Nobody got within 20 points of them. In fact, Foxboro put up 96 points in one of the tournament games. And yes, they did beat Norwell. And you will see highlights of that later in this episode, because I just love that team. I love them all. They're just terrific kids. They're hard workers. They're fun loving, and they look at me as their kindly old grandfather, I guess, maybe, or maybe that creepy guy that does the broadcast. I don't know, but and a lot of people really think that they were the best team in all of MIAA girls basketball this year. Now, we don't have any big tournaments to prove that, but you'll hear more of that. And you'll see some of my favorite broadcasting moments of the recent past in the second third of this episode, and maybe the third too, depending upon how this all breaks. of the Owner's Box After Dark. And you'll have video clips, and I'll even have a couple of interviews with people who know their stuff and can talk quite intelligently about what we witnessed this year. But first, it's not a new tradition. It's an old tradition, but it's new commercials. I've found new commercials from Japan, the land of the rising sun. They are hilarious, and I always run them as if they are my sponsors. So we'll be right back.
本日終了。そんな彼女のご褒美はガーリックとペッパーのガリペッパーガリペッパーガリペッパーガリペッパーガリペッパーガリペッパーガリペッパーガリペッパーチキン今日ケンタッキーにしない
Hello everybody and welcome back to episode 54 of the Owner's Box After Dark. Of course, it's not dark now. There's sunlight outside, but it takes a while to do these episodes. But first of all, did you enjoy our Japanese commercial? And you can't get away from thinking about that fellow with the Colonel Sanders outfit on. That was pretty cool. Anyway, kind of chilly outside today here, but it's toasty warm inside the palatial confines of Fulton Pond Studios here in Mansfield, Massachusetts. And now we're going to turn the corner to basketball, and I really enjoy talking about it, even though our season's over around here, at least the high school season is. We're in the midst of March Madness, and of course the pro playoffs will be coming soon, but I love high school basketball, and I've had a blast covering it this year. And the first thing we're going to talk about in this segment coming up is what I do with two of my cable systems, Mansfield Cable Access and North Attleboro Community Television, or as we call it, North TV. First thing you're going to see is a compilation of what was really an incredible last minute of basketball played by the King Philip Warrior boys against Braintree in the MIAA tournament. It was the preliminary round. It was number 32 versus number 33 in the seeding. It wasn't a championship game, but boy, was it played like one, and you're going to enjoy it. And then immediately after that, I'm going to talk to my good friend and broadcast partner, Alex Salachi, and we'll be on a split screen. I haven't figured out how to get it to fill the full screen yet, but we'll both be on the screen. And we'll talk about not only the King Philip boys, but the King Philip girls, the Mansfield girls, and the Mansfield boys as well. So sit back, relax, and let's watch some basketball.
To Nicastro, back out to McLeish for three, and he gets it!
He gets it.
McLeish nails that one! And it's a King Philip lead, 62-61. We have a timeout called. 51.4 seconds left. This one's going back and forth. Wow. Wow, what a half of basketball this has been. KP with the 1-point lead, 51.4 seconds left in the fourth quarter here. Who knows, we could have some free basketball.
We could, but right now I'm looking at what KP should be thinking about as they come out here. If they're going to play the zone.
KP getting a great round of applause here by the home fans. They appreciate what's happened so far, and now it's up to them to kind of stop what Braintree wants to do here.
Okay, they're playing the zone. They're playing the zone D. They cannot let anybody get behind them between the back line and the baseline.
Kelly will bring the ball across. He gets it back, gives it over to Moore. Moore underneath now, quick pass, stolen away. Here comes Assini to the basket. No, rebounded by Nicastro. He goes up, nobody's fouled. Make your free throws.
Make this one.
32.2 seconds left. It is a 1-point game. Crook will come into the game for McClory. And Crook's a 3-point threat.
Right.
Nicastro puts the ball up and in. 63-61, 31 seconds left. Here comes Braintree. Moore takes it across. He'll take a quick sprint in and takes it back out. Now he tries to force it again too, but now Kelly got it to Crook. Crook gets the three! And a timeout quickly called by Braintree. All right, McLeish will inbound the ball from the end line, and here comes Nicastro. Nicastro bringing it across. Nicastro runs into some defense. Quick pass to Kilroy for three!
And there's 4 seconds left.
Kilroy's for 3, 4 seconds remaining. Now it's time to do something. But right now, KP has a 2-point lead, 66-64. Wow, this game has had nothing but excitement here at the end. Someday. Crook can move, and he is. And it's blocked! They'll get it back. 4.6, now 2/10 of a second ticked off as Kilroy just jammed that one back at him. Now he can't move, and it's blocked again! Kilroy again, terrific. Now this time the clock didn't move at all, or we just work to get it to overtime.
Well, I guess the general thought would be get the best shot.
Okay, Coughlin will inbound here on the baseline, on the sideline right in front of us. Coughlin slaps the ball, looks, passes it to Morris, stolen! Stolen by Nicastro, he's fouled! What a play! 0.8 seconds showing. Brandon, make this one, and they could still hit a 3, but make this shot, and KP has a good chance of advancing. The next one, he's going to throw it in. He did
same bounce.
Yep. And it's stolen again, this time by Kilroy, and that's it. That's the end of the game. The King Philip Warriors win. They beat Braintree 67-64. What a thriller.
I'm joined from his vacation in Florida by my good friend and broadcast partner for Mansfield and KP basketball, Alex Salachi. Alex, how's the weather down there?
Well, it's pretty nice today, Mark, and I'm all set to head to the beach in a few minutes.
Oh, you lucky stiff, you. Okay, let's talk a little bit of basketball quickly. As our viewers have just seen my edited clip of the last few minutes of the King Philip Braintree boys basketball game in the tournament, which was incredibly exciting. And I think I made it exciting enough to watch because it took a lot of time to transpire, but I got the good parts in. We saw a lot of KP this year, and certainly a lot of the players who did their best things out there were underclassmen. So that I've got to believe that is a really great sign for the future. Next year's team may be very strong, a couple of key losses, but what do you think about that?
Well, Mark, I agree with you. It depends on how much the players develop in the off season. Now, you did mention that tournament game versus Braintree, and I thought that was probably the most exciting part of the season. I thought it was masterful the way the players maintained their poise, worked the clock, and then played perfect defense in the closing seconds of that big win. And in those closing seconds, the opponent set up a play that had worked for them at least twice earlier in the game. It was a sideline inbound play with a lob pass to a teammate using a foul line back screen. If the screen is covered incorrectly, it's a wide open layup for the opposing player. But with time winding down, junior guard Brandon Nicastro read the screen, positioned himself perfectly between the ball and the cutter, and guess what? The pass came right to him. It was perfect defense. It was as clutch as you can see a player perform defensively. He did in that moment. Also, I think I got to give props to Coach Dave DiStefano for matching wits with veteran coach Bob Crook, especially in the last few minutes of that game. It was like a chess match in those final couple of minutes.
Well, it was exciting, and certainly King Philip is overdue for some exciting basketball there, and hopefully good things for the future. Now, we also saw a lot of the King Philip girls this year, and they're going to be losing a large senior class, and those are experienced players. But we saw some young players really step up during the course of the season. One of them, of course, is their point guard, Jesse Persky. So, I have a feeling that if Jesse can lead the team next year, and Jeff Miskowitz, the coach, can find a few players to fill in some of those holes, the KP girls may actually still be a competitive team next year.
I agree, Mark. You did mention Jessie Persky, and I wouldn't be surprised if she becomes a very good point guard. This past season, she shared the point guard position with senior Jordan Bennett, and they both did a great job at that position. And for the next 2 seasons, I think the team will benefit greatly from the improvements we saw in Jess Persky as she developed over the course of the season. She has the tools to be an impressive floor leader. Her head is up. She sees the court. Right? She helps, her teammates become better players because she has a great sense of timing. And she can score when necessary. Okay. I want to stress that a point guard like that makes their teammates a better player. Maddie Keogh, Anastasia Boyarchuk, Erin Berthum, and others are going to benefit in their development with a versatile Jessie Persky running the offense.
That's going to be a key for King Philip, though. They've got to fill in the holes in the front court. Certainly, that's going to be the biggest challenge for them. Speaking of the girls' side, we saw obviously a lot of Mansfield girls and boys basketball. That's our primary job during the season. The Mansfield girls really were impressive, and certainly we know that they have one of the best players in the Hockomock League in Cara Santos. She was a senior. She's gone. But the younger players that stepped up this year, and, they came in as sophomores and freshmen at the beginning of the year. They didn't play like sophomores and freshmen at the end of the year, and that's why Mansfield got to the Sweet 16 in the Division II tournament. I've got to feel that Mansfield's in for some really exciting times in the next year or so.
Right, I'm probably going to repeat exactly what you just said, Mark, because I feel the same way. The development of the younger players was one of the most impressive parts of that Mansfield season. But you mix that in with the steady senior leadership and the strong play of Cara Santos and Kira Fitzpatrick, right? And you add in a few of the other upperclassmen, and that led to a very successful season. And the outlook is really bright. You have experienced rising seniors Ella Palanza and Frankie Spagna, combining with rising juniors Kelsey O'Connor and Caitlin Troilo. And then you've got that strong core of rising sophomores that you mentioned, Sophia Foley, Sophie Klang, Sadie Jablonski, and Maddie Boyle. I'm going to include her, too, because she did get some varsity playing time. There's much to look forward to over the next few years. And we do know that Coach McPherson is an expert at putting together a rotation that works and sticking with it. And also there's probably other players that are unmentioned here who are working right now to get themselves ready to break into this lineup next year.
Biggest problem is that they're going to be in the toughest division of the Hockomock League next year. The Davenport division, I think, is far outstripping the Kelly Rex right now in girls basketball. Well, our last look here will be at the Mansfield boys. Now, they started this season at a disadvantage right off the bat with the season-long loss of Eddie McCoy. And, then they get to the playoffs, and they're snake-bitten again when Devon Sanders, their outstanding point guard, came down with an illness. But, they have that pedigree, and they got to the Sweet 16, and they end up getting beaten by a very good Somerset Berkeley team that had a chance to make it to the finals, did not. They do lose a lot through graduation this year. Sanders and Trevor Foley, who became one of the best players in the league by season's end, certainly, and was dominating in the paint. So now you've got a situation where Mike Vaughn might have his work cut out for him. But he did have some younger players still contribute a lot, and maybe that's the hope.
Right. It seems like every year you see someone that you didn't even think of show up in an MHS boys uniform and do things that you just are completely surprised by, and that of course comes from hard work. They just don't sit around in the off season and wait for the next season to start. And as you referred to, they were challenged come tournament time. They started tournament play with their point guard and scoring machine, Devon Sanders, out of action. But they rallied. They were determined. They were focused. Trevor Foley led the charge with stellar play around the glass. And then Nate Creedon picked up the long-range slack by knocking down 1 3 after another. And there are so many other names that could be mentioned here, guys who stepped up to make huge contributions in the Westboro and Burlington tournament wins.
Well, I'm looking forward to another season of basketball, and certainly I think we're going to have a lot of good things to cover in the upcoming year. I have a good feeling about these teams that we saw, so thanks for chiming in here in our last broadcasting effort, at least for now, of this year. Go out and enjoy that beach, my friend, and let me know how it was.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. Take care.
Well, that was fun. We'll have more basketball coming up with my good friend Lisa Downs and her 4-time state championship winning Foxboro Warriors, and some great highlights from their most recent championship game against Norwell. But first, yes, another word from our sponsors, if you can understand it.
ちょっとあれニュージーンズじゃない？コークゼロ買いに来たのかな？マジ？チャンス来た！私絶対選ばれたい！コカ・コーラマシタコカ・コーラマシタ
てかマシタってどういう意味？
美味しいって意味だって見てこの炭酸美味しそうでしょ？
いやいや冷えてる方がいいっしょ。
選んでそっち？コカ・コーラマシタ選ぼうコークゼロの美味しさをもう一本いかがですか？
切り替え早っ。
And welcome back to episode 54 of the Owner's Box After Dark. Been a while. I get a lot of buttons to push over here. You just saw some great basketball a few minutes ago, and now you're going to see even more of it. As you folks know, if you've watched these podcasts before in the past, or if you've listened to the audio version of the Owner's Box, you know that Foxboro girls basketball coach Lisa Downs is a very good friend and somebody I've had a long association with. I've known her for 42 years, and she's done a magnificent job over the 13 seasons that she's been the head coach of the Foxboro girls basketball team. Well, she'll join me in a few minutes, but first I want to show you a little compilation I made of the girls' championship game against Norwell this year. This team was one of the best basketball teams I have ever seen in more than 50 years of covering high school sports. I'm not kidding you. They were terrific. They had scoring. They had defense, rebounding. They had spirit. They had spunk. They had everything you need to be a championship team. And if you remember, the 5 starters from last year's team and several of their reserves came back this year after winning the Division II championship last year. Now, unfortunately, they got dropped to Division III enrollment realignment. Nothing they could do about it, but they went out and took care of business in the tournament. No team was within 20 points of them, and they really scored a ton of points, as I mentioned. So Lisa will join me after a wonderful little segment that I put together from the folks at Foxboro Cable Access. I pulled their film off the internet and cut it together for just a kind of what I think is a little retrospective that completely represents what this team was all about and how much fun it was to cover it. So let's watch that, and then we'll talk to Lisa. Here we go.
And freshman Alex Cassidy has been a nice surprise for the Clippers. She had a breakout game on January 31st when she put 26 points in the net in a win over Abington. I, however, do feel that they might have a little trouble matching up with Foxboro's athleticism, and they probably won't be able to handle the defensive skills of Collins and Foley. And we are underway as Collins takes the first shot, misses it, rebounded by Chamberlain. Chamberlain goes back up and in. Izzy Chamberlain makes it 2-0 for the Foxboro Warriors.
Great offensive board by Isabel.
Collins, left side. Collins. Is that Ava underneath there? Yes, it is. Ava puts it up. She's hit, but no foul. And the ball comes down to Noah to have a hope. Hey, Collins with the ball. Takes it across the center stripe. Will go straight to the basket and is fouled on the way in. The layup ended up hitting underneath the basket, but she was fouled on the way to the basket. And that foul will be on Madison. That's her first. Cam Collins will shoot 2. First one is good.
This is the last quarter of basketball that she will play in a Foxboro Warrior uniform.
On to Rider University next year, and I'm sure good things for her. Second one rolls in. As the board brings it across, she's on the right side. Outside the college three-point circle. Directs traffic.
Enough time on that. Yep.
We'll take the stop and pop. They gave it to her. I thought she might have it, but no. She went from the correct one this time. And that's another. She is just turning it on. 57-36 is the score. Behind the back dribble by Sullivan. She'll take it across. Breaking to the basket. It's Collins. It's good. Whoa. She's just toying with them right now.
She's putting on a clinic. Replay, Sullivan to Collins, back door breaking. And Foxboro faithful go bananas behind the bench.
Celebration. They can't do it in turn and play. The game is on. There was an announcement. I didn't quite pick up on it. If that's the case, Matty Oliver, congratulations.
Yes, congratulations on the milestone.
It is always a difficult thing to do. I don't care how many kids people say they start when they're freshman when they play games, but you have to be healthy for at least on the verge of, I guess you could call it a dynasty. The quick pass inside, Reuter is fouled. The pass was from Collins. You probably heard that. Alex Cassidy's first foul. Addie Reuter goes to the foul line for her first free throws of the game. Puts the first one off the rim and around and out.
And it appears that Norwell will empty their bench.
That's it. With 1:55 left, they're bringing in the shot troops, as they say. Job well done by the Clippers to get here, but it's got to be incredibly disappointing to have won 23 straight and then to run into a buzzsaw here.
And we have, it looks like Bryn Allen, Naomi Aguas-Vivas, and Camilla Burton in the game.
So yes, Foxboro responds as well.
And seniors Erin Foley, Cam Collins will be on the bench.
Second shot by Reuter is good, so she gets 1 or 2. Rebound, battle, comes back out. Quick pass from Hassman goes inside to Burton. Camilla Burton with the basket.
Camilla Burton, sophomore.
27 seconds left. A message to the Foxboro Police Department and the fire department: get those cars and trucks ready. You got to have a parade later tonight.
That's right. Get out of Patriot Place. Don't worry about the St. Patrick's Day people. We got more important things to do on the common.
Rivas goes to the basket, does not go. Norwell has the last shot to get off. A stop, a jumper. That's over. That is over. We have fireworks. The Foxboro Warriors are state champions again. Their third championship since, they are their fourth championship since 2018. What a juggernaut this team is. The Foxboro Warriors win 66-43 over the Norwell Clippers. Kate?
I'm speechless.
It is a wonderful, wonderful thing.
I am joined by someone I can now call the 4-time state championship coach of the Foxboro High School girls basketball team. Of course, Lisa Downs is my guest. Thank you, Lisa, for coming on short notice here on the Owner's Box After Dark.
Absolutely. Anything for you.
Oh, thank you so much. That's so sweet of you. Look, we'll do this quickly because I know I've run out of mugs for you, so we just have to. We just want to. I want to. The folks who are watching this have just seen a 5-minute compilation of the final game that I've edited together, and it's really kind of fun. And hopefully, when you see this, you'll enjoy that too. Certainly, I seem to ask you this all the time at the end of a season. But has it all sunk in yet that your team accomplished its mission as expected and as we all hoped it would?
Honestly, I don't think it's completely set in yet. I think tomorrow when I don't have practice, I think that last week was just a blur. I think I got sick, and which I normally do immediately after we go deep in the tournament. And so I've finally emerged on the alive side right now, so I'm not coughing and feverish and all that. So I think once I don't have a 4:30 to 6:30 practice tomorrow, and it's really, it seems like a long spread of time since I haven't seen the girls. That's when it's going to really settle in, and I'll be able to, I think, reflect a little bit more on everything. I've been keeping in touch with the girls quite often. They text me nonstop, so it's been nice in that regard. But I think once they move on to their spring sports or whatnot, the conversations are going to get fewer and far between, and that's what's going to really start missing the girls.
Well, first of all, I'm glad you're back on your feet. I know that feeling. It's funny because every time I would cover a Super Bowl, the NFL Super Bowls, I'd be out in whatever city it was for a week. And then I would be fighting off something the whole time, I know. And as soon as I got on that plane to come home, I would start to feel it. And of course, I'd be sick as a dog for about 3 or 4 days afterwards. So your body just seems to fight stuff off during times of challenge like that. And I'm sure that's probably what happened with you. But I know not much can keep you down. So anyway, first, let's talk about the individual accomplishments that were very obvious this year. Cam Collins and Kaylee Sullivan were as unstoppable a duo as I've ever seen before, not just in Foxboro, but just about anywhere around here. Now, you've had players like Ashley Sampson and Caitlin Malika, but how do these two stack up? And have you ever thought that you'd have two on the same team at the same time?
It's so funny to think about each of those players individually because they are so different in what they bring to, the court. Caitlin Malika, pure shooter, probably the best pure shooter I've ever coached. Ashley Sampson, she was tall, so she could play every position out there. So, she was kind of a unicorn in herself. But then you have Cam Collins and Kaylee is able to now defend people like she maybe wasn't able to a year ago. She sees the court extremely well. I actually moved her to the wing a little bit more so she could get more of her shots of a first option instead of trying to make her shots available to herself, which it was huge for her. It just took a little bit of pressure off her. So then you add Cam, who, like I've said before, I think she is the most athletic basketball player I've ever coached or even seen. And she just added this whole dynamic that the two of them on the court together is just something that few coaches ever experienced, and I was lucky enough to have it for this year. But they just saw the court. Their basketball IQ in general is just so high. And there's so many girls that play several sports, which I encourage. But these two girls, basketball has always been, probably since they could walk, their number one sport. And they knew that they aspired to be at a certain level. And so to have them stay in the Foxborough public school system and then only be one school year grade apart is just amazing.
It's so important to keeping them in the school system. This topic came up in another program that I did with North TV about how maybe one school in our area loses so many kids to another school, to Bishop Feehan, in fact, because there's a big connection there with the AAU team and all that. But now the recruiting out there is incredible when it comes down to the prep schools and all that. And it really does shock me that a school can keep players of that level of talent that Cam and Kaylee have. But of course, Foxborough has the reputation of having an outstanding coach, and I'm not just blowing smoke up your butt or anything like that. It's true. I mean, other schools struggle a little bit with that, with not being able to keep the players. So you can consider yourself fortunate in that regard, and I'm sure you do every day.
Yes,
Now,
yes. I mean, it took a lot of work when I first got here because I would always aspire to be what Lainey was to Oliver Ames, and just to build this program that girls just really, as soon as they were playing Medford West, want to get to Oliver Ames to play for her. And I think once 13 years ago, I would start going to all the travel league games so that I could be, first of all, recognized as a varsity coach, but also for the parents and the kids to see that I was invested. And, and as you start to win, like you said, it's just contagious, and kids want to be a part of a winning culture. So I'm happy to now look back and see that I've been able to build up something that kids want to get to. And hopefully we stay there for as long as I'm here, at least.
You lost only 2 games this year. One was to a prep school from Pennsylvania that had 4 Division I recruits in the starting lineup. Okay, that was in that Florida tournament, which I'm sure was a great experience for your kids and helped them in the process of building their confidence for this year coming forward, because you did face outstanding teams there.
Right.
Then the other one was to Wachusett, which was a Division I finalist, lost to Bishop Feehan in the final after devastating them in the Comcast tournament by something like 30 points. Great turnaround for Feehan in that game. If you look back at the season, aside from those 2 defeats, were there any times at all that you doubted that the mission could be accomplished, that maybe somebody might catch up to you during the week? Because certainly during the tournament, nobody got within 20 points of you. But it's a long season, and you had a little longer season than usual because you had, I think, 21 regular season games. That's only one game, but over the course of a long period of time, it accumulates. So,
right.
Was there any time that you thought that the team might be losing its focus or might be vulnerable? But I didn't see it. But did you?
I honestly didn't. I think our biggest challenge was just staying focused on each game, because some of the games were not as challenging as I would have hoped for them to be, because it makes you have to really work on all the different small details of your game. I mean, it's easy to step on a court knowing that you're the more talented team, but then it's another thing to maintain your focus for 32 minutes when you're up by a significant amount of points. And the starters knowing they most likely weren't going to be playing many minutes in the second half. I mean, that was also challenging, trying to balance, where to play kids, where not to play kids, and what we could accomplish, not just the win, but what we could accomplish in terms of getting better for the next game.
The Globe and the Herald split on you guys. The Herald picked you guys as the number 1 team at the end of the season, and the Globe picked you number 2. I think it's a fair accomplishment either way, but maybe a little Division I bias on the part of the Globe. But you know what? Bishop Feehan had a great season and a great turnaround in that championship game against Wachusett. How do you feel about it? Did you feel like did you get a raw deal from the Globe, or
having just at that number 1 all season, it's a little, not it's a little unsettling to see yourself at 2. Not to take anything away from Feehan, they did an amazing turnaround to get that win against Wachusett. But I think it had, if we had a second opportunity to play Wachusett, that probably would have been a different game as well, because you learn what did and didn't work in that prior game, and then you can adjust things going forward. So, it's nothing. They're a great team. I really, really, I love their coach, and so we know that it would have been, had we played Bishop Feehan this year, who knows what would have happened? It would have been a great game. So,
well, of course, I went to the scrimmage, but of course that was at the beginning of the season before both teams really knew what they had. You might have had a better idea than Amy, because she lost more people from last year than you did. You had tons of talent back, but I thought it was a fairly even meeting right even then. So, and the bottom line is you both have trophies. So You can't complain about that.
Nope.
Nobody can.
Nope. All good.
You lost some great seniors now, and certainly my respect for Collins, for Erin Foley, for Izzy Chamberlain, even for Kenzie Burton, who didn't get to play, but really was supportive of her teammates all throughout. That's going to be a loss, but your cupboard is not going to be bare next year. In fact, you have a pretty good pile of returning talent back next year. Could you talk a little bit about that and maybe some early expectations? I know we're hardly removed from this season at all, but I know you're always thinking.
Oh, yeah. I mean, obviously having Kaylee Sullivan and Addie returning are huge. And had Addie played a full season this year, she, would have made easy games even easier. And I think she would have impacted that one loss we had in Florida quite a bit.
I do think that Addie Reuter has got herself back up to speed by the time the tournament came along, and certainly 17 points in the title game, very important. So yes, it took a while because she had knee surgery and had to rehab and all that. But yes, I think that may have made a difference earlier in the season, but it certainly made a big difference at the end of the season that she was able to come back.
Right, definitely. And I think that, having still that element of having a true center is just going to make it so much easier for our guards as it had been at the end of the season. So you have Kaylee, being Kaylee already, well over 1,000 points and having a whole year left. And then you have Addie that just has played, the amount of skill she brings into the paint and even just outside the paint is, you just can't even compare that to anyone that I've seen out there. And then you have Ava, Ava Hill was in our starting five prior to Addie returning, and she stepped into that role seamlessly, and she adds, a good amount of offense, but she's also a rebounding master in there, and just has a great body for basketball and head for the game. And then I was so deep this year with guards that it was great for those girls to play against Erin and Cam and Sully every practice, because now freshman Elisa Drummonds is going to be able to step into a big role. Yes. Adriana Perazzo, another one. Those two I'm really looking at stepping into some pretty pivotal roles next year to replace. No one can replace Cam and Erin and Izzy, but especially Cam's going to, like I said, it's going to be a committee that's going to have to step into where she stepped off in terms of scoring and defense and whatnot. But then you also have, I have Kylie Sampson coming off the bench. I have Naomi Aguas Vivas, who was a freshman that improved immensely during the course of the season, that is now playing in a different AAU program, which I think is going to be a better match for her in the off season. So, and then we just have a lot of girls that they know how we need to compete in order to stay where we are. Well,
I am definitely looking forward to the future. I certainly appreciated the past. This season. I didn't get to do too many of your games during the regular season, but the scheduling gods favored everybody at the end, and I did all but one of your postseason games. So I really had a great time doing that. It has been a joy to be associated with Foxboro basketball in any way, shape, or form since 1978, when you were just a mere tyke. So all I can say is thank you for letting me be a part of it a little bit. And my best wishes for you in this off season and for going forward into the next season. It's always a joy to cover Foxboro basketball, Lisa. It always is.
Well, thank you for everything you've done for us. The commentating is second to none when you step onto that table over there on our floor. So thank you.
Kate Hill does a good job, though, too. I want to give her credit.
You've been a good mentor for her. So, you guys make a great team.
Well, thank you again, Lisa, and best of everything. We'll talk to you again soon.
All right. Thanks, Mark.
Okay. Well, that was a lot of fun talking to Lisa Downs, as it always is. I mean, she's been a guest on this thing for about 15 or 16 times by now. I've lost count. I haven't got much time left because this is already the longest episode I've ever done, so I just want to go through some quick things really fast. If you would like to contact me, you have a couple of ways to do it. You can either email me at theownersbox2020@gmail.com. It's going to come up on the screen, so it'll be a help. Also, if you want to write a letter and send it by snail mail, that is Post Office Box 272, Mansfield, Massachusetts, 02048. The owner's box, Post Office Box 272, Mansfield, Mass, 02048. Now remember, too, these are on YouTube. They're free. You can watch them without any cost, any expense at all. Just type in the search that says, where it says search, just type in The Owner's Box After Dark, and you will find my episodes. And you'll probably be able to get to the page. You can subscribe. You can do anything you want. There will be more, I promise. We will not have a 2.5-year absence until the next one comes. And don't forget my audio podcast. That thing is going strong again, although we'll get it cranked up. It's been a while, but I'm going to make sure that we get that thing going again. So that is always available through any of the major podcasting platforms, and those will show up on your screen as well. That will be easy and fun to do. You can subscribe to any of those platforms. You can call up my episodes. There are over 50 of them. Plenty of them are very interesting. Some aren't, as with anything that's gone that long. Again, you can have it sent directly to your smartphone, and you'll never have to worry about being updated as to when they're there. New one comes out, boom, it's on your phone, and it doesn't cost you a thing. I want to thank everybody for rejoining me in these podcasts. I hope to have more of them. They will be shorter, I promise. They will be only about 45 minutes in length in the future, but I just had to get things going again. And look, given that we occasionally hear more scary headlines about COVID and a new variant or something new, keep using the stuff. You know, there's plenty of it on the shelves now. There's no shortages of toilet paper or anything like that anymore. Please take care of yourselves. Do whatever you can to keep healthy, keep happy, and come back and watch another podcast when I get one out. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. Good night.